When I was in high school, me and my mom lived in a smaller home that always made me uneasy. The house was older and outdated, but wasn't overwhelmingly creepy just by looking at it. However, what made me so uneasy was the constant feeling I was being watched in the home. Day or night, it did not matter. One rainy Saturday, I woke up late and went downstairs to eat a bowl of cereal. As I poured my milk, I distinctly heard my mother's voice calling up to me from our basement. Now, our basement was by far the most terrifying part of our already creepy house. I never saw anything or had any reason in particular to hate this basement, besides just the feeling of despair I was overcome with every time I had to go down there for anything, like something bad had happened down there. The feeling of being watched seemed to intensify every time I was in the basement. The basement was a dirt floor cellar with cobwebs everywhere. Our washer and dryer were downstairs, but besides from running in and out as quick as possible to do laundry, I avoid this basement at all costs. "Randy," she called. I stepped to the top of the creaky wooden steps, looking down into the basement. I peered down into the complete darkness. Was I hearing things? No, I couldn't have been. Then again, I hear, "Randy." I yell down, "Mom, are you down there? Why are you in the dark?" A second goes by, and in response again I hear, "Randy, come down here." I flick on the light switch and see the faint glow of a single hanging bulb. I start to descend into the basement slowly to allow my eyes to adjust to the poor dim lighting. I reach the bottom of the steps and look around. As I mentioned, our basement wasn't used for anything besides laundry and a little storage, but we didn't have much down there. I quickly realized my mom was nowhere to be seen. But then I noticed something odd. On the far side of the cellar, we had an old wooden door that led into a crawl space that we never used for anything. The crawl space had no lights whatsoever and always seemed damp, so not ideal for storage. This was odd, because the door was open, but we always kept it shut with a deadbolt. "Mom?" I called almost in a whisper now. "Are you in there?" Now I heard it again, and this time I was certain it came from the dark crawl space, only this time it sounded deeper within. "Randy, come here." Instantly, my blood ran cold as I remembered my mom was taking an extra morning shift at work today, and I was home alone. I ran up the stairs as fast as I could and slammed the basement door shut. I was shaking with fear, and to this day, I still often wonder what was down there deep within the crawl space and what would have happened if I went in there.
I had seen and felt spirits for years up until I was around the age of 15. After blocking off experiences, I completely forgot about it and continued my life as normal until around the age of 20, when I had my first child, and he was about 1.5 years old. I was washing dishes at around 8 a.m. and let him play with the pots and pans. He was having a lot of fun and giggling to himself, when suddenly I heard my sister scream out, "Shut that damn baby up!" Mind you, my sister is a school teacher and one of the kindest people you'd ever meet, so I was completely in disbelief. I ignored it and kept letting my son play. Within 10 to 20 seconds, I hear, "You want to go around procreating these little shits and you can't even control them? You shouldn't have had it in the first place." At that point, I was infuriated. I started screaming back and then heard her bedroom door slam. She started laughing hysterically and was taunting me to come and show me what you got, she said. Her words were horrible, especially accompanied by that sinister laugh. This was completely out of character for her, and I'd never seen her act like this. I stormed through the house and got to her room. her still laughing through the door. I barged at full speed into the bedroom, and the laughing stopped abruptly, with no one there. I immediately felt the hair on my head stand up. I was alone. No one was home but me and my son. Within seconds, my phone rang. I felt like vomiting at this point. It was my sister. I answered and she sounded distressed, saying, "I had a terrible feeling about you. Are you okay?" I didn't explain what had happened at that point because I was still mid-shaking. But I said, "I'm fine. Are you okay?" She explained that she had forgotten to tell me that she had left the night before because her friend needed her to babysit. So she had stayed there all night. You bet your bottom dollar I fled the house after that call. I didn't take any of my son's things. I just grabbed my son and we both left for the shopping mall in our pajamas. I bought all the supplies we needed that day at the mall, including nappies. I didn't go back to that house until my mom came home in the evening.
When I turned 16, I temporarily moved in with my friend and her family. I've had many paranormal experiences up to this point, so when I do encounter something, I usually keep it to myself instead of questioning and asking about it. I had always been sensitive to paranormal things, so I never mentioned anything that I saw or heard. I would assume it was just me. Well, let's jump into it. It started with me having random sleep paralysis attacks. I've always suffered from sleep paralysis, so it was normal for me. I would just watch something afterwards to calm my mind and go back to sleep, except it didn't work like that here. I had to remove myself from the room in order to even get an hour of sleep. I brushed it off as an odd occurrence or just getting used to the new place. Well, one night I woke up, fully able to move, not hallucinating or anything yet. I can hear talking in the closet. 2 kids at first. I ignored it and was going to go back to sleep, but then I was concerned because why aren't the kids asleep right now? And why are they hiding? I decided to ear hustle a little bit. I heard a little girl whisper that she didn't like me, and a boy say that I scare him. More whispers. I shuffled in the bed, trying to be quiet, so I can see which child is scared of me, but the closet was only slightly opened, and it was pitch black in there. That's when I heard very clear and audible, "Shh, she's awake, she'll hear us." Then everything went dead silent. That sent chills down my spine. I had just remembered that we only have 2 kids in the house, both girls, both asleep right beside me and my friend. The girls had made beds on the floor and were sound asleep. There was no possible way I could have heard children in the closet, especially not a boy and girl chattering. I didn't want to be freaked out, so I just tried convincing myself I was hearing the TV from the other room. I left the room and slept on the couch. Just another weird thing, right? Well, that's not it. Whenever I'm in the room by myself early in the day or at night, I would hear creaking in the ceiling. At first, I assumed the house was settling, but then I noticed the creaking would start on the other side and always drag to my side until it was above me. Every day, no matter which side I was on, it would travel in my direction. Starting with a simple creak, then a pause, then it would drag closer, then pause again, then drag even closer. I always left the room when that happened, and I could hear it follow me until I passed through the doorway. If I told anyone, they'd just say the house was settling, or that it was cats or mice on the roof. Whatever, you can cover that up, but you can't cover this next thing up. I had started seeing my friend hide under the living room coffee table and kitchen table, but I'd only see it briefly as I walked past. When I would do a double take and look again, she would disappear. I assumed this was all in my head. Nope. Because one day I had fully seen her in the living room sweeping. That was her chore, cleaning the living room. And mine was to clean the kitchen, which is next to the living room. We could see each other clearly and I even talked to her. I said, "You're up early." And she just nodded and kept sweeping, which I assumed she was still tired. I then walked past her sweeping, though only to run into her in the hallway. I was so confused. I walked all the way back to the living room and nobody was there. I even started searching the kitchen in case whoever that was hiding. Nope, didn't find her. I told her I had just seen her sweeping, but she said she had just woken up and that I was seeing things because it was early and I was still half asleep. But I knew I wasn't because I was washing dishes and touching water wakes me up more. Okay, here's the climax. I ignored all of that, but this was the final straw. I should probably explain that we don't have a door that leads immediately to the back. We have a door that leads to the side of the house where you walk the narrow short path along the house to the backyard. Anyways, it was night and my friend's older brother asked me to take his dog out to go potty. She's a fairly big dog, a husky mix. I don't normally go into the backyard at night. When I do, it's quick because the lighting is terrible and you can hardly see anything in that big yard at night. I turned on the side light and I let her out to pee. She wouldn't go if I didn't go, so I walked out with her. She freely roamed the yard and I waited by the corner of the house under the overhanging patio roof. Everything was fine. I couldn't see her for a bit, but then I caught sight of her sniffing silhouette. I knew she had probably finished and was just exploring and enjoying herself. Then I heard a creak above me. It sounded like weight was being applied to the roof above me, and I felt like someone was hovering over me, but of course, I didn't want to psych myself out. So I just ignored it and kept watching the husky. Problem was, she wasn't sniffing around anymore. She was just staring at me or in my direction. I thought she wanted to go back inside, so I called to her. When I called out to her, she shifted a bit, turning slightly towards me, then back. She seemed alerted at what I thought was me, but after further observation, I knew she was watching something else. She would not move for the next minute, and I could hear more cracking and creaking above me. I tried to ignore it and play it off like it didn't bother me, like it was nothing. So I took a step back and I heard it follow. I called her to come inside, but she didn't move. Then I took another step back. The movement followed me again. This sent me into panic mode, and before I knew it, I took off running towards the door. It followed me to the door. I heard it dragging from the corner of the roof I was standing under, following me along the side of the house, always remaining directly above me. I could feel a strong urge to not turn around and to just get into the house. It was just as fast as me. I ran into the house and slammed the door. Thank God the husky was just as fast as me, because as soon as I took off, she took off. When we got inside, she ran right to my friend's brother's room, and from what I heard from him, she hid under the bed. I was no longer panicking. I was pissed. I went straight to my friend's mom's room, where they were talking about heaven knows what, and I explained everything that happened in the backyard. I told them that I was chased into the house by something on the roof, and that it was most definitely not the house settling. That's when they all gave each other a weird look, and that's when I knew this house was not normal. They explained to me that there is something wrong, and that they'd just ignore it to keep it from getting more active, and that it was a good thing I didn't try and look at what chased me, because if I did, I would have been scared. The mom told me that her daughter, my friend, had let a friend bring a Ouija board over, and they played with it all night attempting to contact spirits, and that ever since then, weird stuff had been happening, such as seeing a look-alike of her daughter walking around and catching a glimpse of her daughter under tables, or hearing something drag across the ceiling, following them around. She explained all the things that I had personally experienced in the house, even though some of it I had never told them. She said that they had even gotten the house blessed, so they thought it would go away, but it only subsided. Needless to say, I stayed because I had nowhere else to go, but these occurrences never stopped.